Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well. Today what I wanted to do is I'm going to start probably a 2 or 3 or 4 part series on setting up a bow. Not all my videos are going to be bow setup or bows in the press. It's just kind of where I'm at right now. My Super RTX, I've got Twisted X bowstrings. I'm going to get these installed. Shane builds quality strings, so if you're in the market for strings, look up Twisted X bowstrings. Shane Teal, he's here in Oklahoma, and I've shot his strings for the last 7-8 years. I've never had an issue, so definitely check out Shane's stuff. But in the process of putting new strings on, like I said, I want to kind of do a few different parts, a few videos, kind of just showing the process that I go through to set a bow up. And again, keep in mind, I'm pretty new still at setting up bows. I mean, I've set up 3 or 4 at this point in my archery career myself, so I'm still pretty new at it, but I do kind of have a process and a way that I do it, and I just want to show you guys how I do it. And if you guys do it, if you build bows yourself, let me know the things that you do differently. Always open to learn new stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what we're gonna do, and I appreciate you guys hanging out. Okay, so in the first part of this series that I'm going to do, the first thing I want to do, I've got my target bow. I've got it set up how I like it with the factory strings, and this first video is just going to be showing you all the information that I want to write down, all of the marks I want to put on the bow, all the reference points that I need, so that when I put the custom strings on, I'm going to wind up with a bow that's in the same tune, same draw length, same peep height, all of those things that make a bow feel so good. I want to be able to replicate that. And for you guys that are you are adding strings or making changes to bows, I'm sure you guys have heard about having a bow journal or writing down your specs, so that if you find a setup that really works for you, you can go back in your notes and look at that and try to replicate those things that work. That's a little bit of what I want to show you today. It's going to be super quick. I just want to show you some of the things that I'm going to measure, and some of the things I'm going to write in my bow journal that are going to help me when I put the new strings on to get the bow to feel the same that it did before I put the strings on. So stick around and we'll do this together. Okay guys, so I kind of want to talk you through a couple of the measurements that we want to take on the bow. That's going to help us get the bow back, to the same, similar tune that we're in right now. So one of the first measurements that you're going to want to take is axle to axle. So obviously you're just going to measure from one axle, the middle of one axle, to the middle of the other. And on this bow, it's right at 40 1/8. This bow's a 40-inch ATA, but as we measured, the bow's only drawing 58.6 pounds, which would lead you, you could add a couple twists to the cables to bring that poundage up. And when you did that, it's going to compress, it's going to add more tension in the system and compress the limbs, probably get it right to the ATA, the 40-inch ATA. So that's the axle to axle measurement. The next measurement we're going to want to take is brace height. Brace height is measured from the deepest part of the throat of the handle to the bowstring at rest. So on this particular bow, it looks like it is right at 7.5 inches. So we'll go ahead and mark 7.5 inches in our book for the brace height. The next measurement that we want is the tiller. Tiller is kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about. I honestly didn't know much about it, but tiller is from the pivot point of the limb bracket to the string at rest. So you'll measure the top and the bottom, and on this bow, looks like it's about 6 3/4. on the bottom, and the top is about 6 5/8. So it's just a little less on the top. 6 3/4, 6 5/8. You know, if it's within an eighth on tiller, it's really probably fine. When I did get the bow at first, you can let out some of the limb bolt and change the tiller adjustment, and I did that, and it was about 1.5 pounds I had to take off the top cam to get those exactly the same. I shot it for a while like that, and I just prefer the limb bolts, you know, all the way in. So I went ahead and, you know, that 1/8 inch isn't a big enough deal to me to worry about. The next thing that you're going to want to measure, let's see what else. See if I can get you guys a little bit better view. We want to get a good measurement of the top, like the bottom of my top knock there, of my soft knock. We want to measure from there to the middle of my peep, and that's going to get me the same peep height when I put the new strings on. So put this in the middle to that top of that. It's looks like it's right at 6 inches there. So right 6 inches, and that'll be you know, my peep height adjustment, or my peep height setting. All right, so the next measurement that we want to take on this factory bowstring is our actual measured draw length. Measured draw length is crucial. A lot of people just say I'm a 28.5, or I'm a 32.5 inch draw, or a 31 inch draw, but you really, draw length fine tuning is really crucial for hold, for, you know, forgiveness, for, there's a lot of things that can build up to, you know, why you should have a specific draw length, and it doesn't always have to be in a 1/2 inch increment. So to measure draw length, you just throw to the grip again, the deepest part of the grip, back to the string, and on this is 27 7/16 is my measured draw length. Okay. So the next measurement you're going to have to do with an actual arrow shaft, and this is something that anytime you do like Archer's Advantage, Archer's Mark, anything like that that's going to build a sight tape for you, you're going to need to know the distance from the actual spot where your pin is on your sight to the middle of your peep sight. It's called a peep to pin measurement. Try to get this where you can see here. So all you got to do here is just, again, set the tape measure at your pin, measure to your peep sight at full draw. And on this one, I'm at 29.5 exactly. So that's one measurement. The other one you need to know is peep to arrow shaft. You measure from the middle of your peep to the middle of your arrow shaft, vertically. And this one, I know I'm at 4.5 inches. I've measured it multiple times. So 4.5 inches there. So those are two measurements you're going to want to write down. So the next thing we need to measure is just the bow poundage and holding weight. I don't know if you can see that. See if I can help you see that. So 58.6 and 15.2. Okay, so one thing I do want to show you guys just really quickly, and it's funny because I set this bow up, and I'm realizing now even that when I set this one up originally with this factory string, I made a bit of a mistake. So it's going to change some of my calculations. But some people, like when they're setting their knocking point, they like to use you know, the middle point between the cams. They like to measure that and then slap it. slap a nocking point right in the dead center of that. The only problem is if your limb bolts, one of them backs out a little bit, anything changes, you change a twist in the cables, it's going to essentially adjust that figure. So you have no way to go back and see if you're truly, if your bow everything's in place. So what I was taught, one thing I was taught is always have, a reference that's not going to move. And obviously on these bows, the burger holes never change. If the burger hole changes, you got a lot of problems. So what I do and what I've been taught, this isn't my information. This is just how it was taught to me. But what you want to do is you want to take your bow square and you want to set the bottom edge down here, the bottom edge at the bottom of the burger holes. So if I just cover them up, that's about right. It's about right there. And when I'm running, with this bow, I'm going to be shooting primarily 25 diameter arrows, the VTAC 25s. The best starting place, I've been told, when you run it like that on a 23 to 27 series, is going to be start the inside nocking point at 1/4 inch from the bottom of the burger, or 3/8 of an inch. So as you can see right here, I definitely started my nocking point lower. So that's about right for a standard diameter arrow, but with the larger diameter arrows, I really should have started my nocking point about where the top of my D loop is. So I'm going to do that on the next, when I put the new strings on, I'm going to make that change, and obviously that's going to give me something that I can always go back, check the burr, and know for sure if anything's changed in my nocking points. If those have slipped, I can go back and measure, and I'll know for sure. So I'll run on the new, once I put the new strings on, I'll run it at 1/4, and that 1/4 will be the top, will be the bottom part of that top knock, if that makes sense. I'll explain it better when we get to that part, but basically this bottom right here is going to be sitting right at 1/4. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll have to raise my rest. It may help with some of that low that I had to clean up. We'll see. But the other thing I'm going to do that I'm sure a lot of you guys have done is I'm going to mark my limb bolts. So I'll just take a silver Sharpie and you'll just draw a line, the top and the bottom. That way you can see if your limb bolts have ever backed out. Sometimes through shooting, the vibration of shooting and all that, bolts can back out. So it's just all giving you things that you can go back and reference and check. But the whole center, going from the center of the cam and saying that's where I'm going to put my nocking point, if anything else changes in the bow, you have no way of going back and measuring that. So that's why we use the burger hole to make that measurement, so that we can always go back and check it. So there's a quick view of what I do to the limb bolts there, just so I can know if my bolt's backed out at all. Just a silver Sharpie, super simple, and you do that top and bottom. All right, so to give you a little bit of a recap on my archery journal that kind of has all of this information written down. Obviously I've written down the bow. It's a 22 PSC Supra RTX. It's the 40-inch ATA. Has the EM cam. My measured draw length was 27 7/16. I think on accident earlier I said you add 1.5 inches, but you actually add 1.75 inches to the measured, and that will give you your actual true draw length. So on this bow, it's running right at 29 1/4. Some of my previous bows, I've been around 29 3/8, so I'm kind of right in that ballpark. The poundage on the bow when I used my scale was 58.6 pounds. I was holding 15.2 pounds, which gives me a let off when you calculate it at 74.1%. So you can't always just take your let off as gospel. If your bow is a 90% let off bow, or a 80% let off, or if you're shooting 65% on a target bow, you really need to have a scale that gives you holding weight so that you can actually calculate that out. Like I said on on my previous, and earlier, the tiller on the top was 6 5/8, the bottom was 6 3/4. Brace height was perfect on spec, 7.5 inch. And then these are some of the calculations you're going to need for any sight tape software, anything like that. If you use Archer's Advantage, Archery, Archer's Mark, any of those software, you're going to need to know that peep to pin, peep to arrow, and then the bottom part is the peep height. That's going to help me set my peep height. So this is the stuff I noted and just kind of wanted to show you guys. If you keep your own notes, let me know what else you include in here. Obviously, once I get a complete arrow build, that information will go in here as well. But right now, this is just the bow. So